internally, emotionally, and professionally, the mistake I made was I thought success was going to be straight line. I had early success, as many people do, and then you start getting into what's real. And I was having setbacks, and I was getting punched in the face, and I was losing money, and I was feeling guilt and shame for it. Hello, and welcome to the Done For You Real Estate Podcast, the newly branded Done For You Real Estate Podcast. Sometimes simplest is always the best. We were the Main Street Patriot Podcast, but when you're searching through iTunes, you don't really know what that is about. Was it about some type of Main Street Tea Party conservative organization, or was it about real estate? It wasn't really clear. So we wanted to go super simple, and now it's very clear. Done For You Real Estate Podcast. My name is Jimmy Vreeland. I am your host. Dude hooting in the background there is my producer, Jake. Jake, how's it going?
Good, man. Good, man. Good to be here with you.
Do you like the new rebrand?
I like it. Clear, simple. Kiss. That's a KISS method right there.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about this week?
I heard we're talking about being anti-fragile, which is a curious name.
Have you ever heard of this before?
I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are you familiar with it?
Through you.
Okay.
Through you, yeah.
But before talking to me?
No, I had not. Maybe I heard of the title of the book, but I didn't know what the concept was or anything.
Okay. So we are going to talk about one of, I think, the main concepts that have really helped my investing career, my personal life, everything. But it is the concept of anti-fragility. And so I'm going to introduce the concept, and I'm going to start a story. I'm going to tell a story, all right?
Story time.
Okay. So when I first started flipping houses, I ran into some early success. So flips 0 to 30 were like easy and then awesome. And I took the success as an internal win, and I just thought I was super awesome. So as many people who are new to business do, or new to investing do, I had success 30 times. So I figured, hey, here's a bright idea. Let's scale. Let's bring on some team members. Let's add to payroll. Let's take some more risk, and let's get after it, right?
Yeah.
Seems like a natural evolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 0 to 30, super crazy time, super fun time of my life.
Yeah.
Flips 30 to 75 was absolutely the worst time of my life.
And so 0 to 30, you're still like a full-time
No, I had
sales professional?
No, I had left the corporate world at this point. I'm probably 6 months out.
Okay.
From leaving the corporate world.
So you're full-time flipping.
Full-time flipping. And then, I had started as a, just being a landlord, doing lease options. We got into flipping, and we ran into some early success.
Yeah.
Or what I thought was early success. But since I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't know which mistakes I were making. That didn't come clear till inside flips 30 to 75.
Okay.
So, we start making a little bit of money, and we start scaling. I start hiring on team members, and it's not just me now. I got a project manager, I got an office manager, and I have no team. I have no systems, no processes, no way to hold people accountable. And it's an absolute mess. Then I also didn't understand finances. I didn't understand bookkeeping. And so then the money is just everywhere. And so I'm struggling to make payroll every week. I'm struggling to pay contractors. It was just an absolute mess. And
I thought you were going to use the word shit show there for a second.
I'm trying to limit my cursing. And so, but that's what it felt like. And I just didn't know what I didn't know. So I was taking on external losses. I was internalizing them. Yeah. And just when I was succeeding, I thought it was all because of me. The reverse side of that sword is I also thought the failures were because of me. And they were, because I was responsible for them, but they were correctable. They were fixable. Right. They were able to be, I could learn from them. And so even though flips 30 to 75, I actually started, I would say, becoming a leader, a business leader, and really learning what I was doing and actually honing my craft. But I wasn't getting the payoff of the endorphins of the external success. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I mean, as a small business owner, I've been there. I'm going through some of that now. So, I'm really excited to hear some of the solutions here.
And so, internally, emotionally, and professionally, the mistake I made was I thought success was going to be straight line. I had early success, as many people do, and then you start getting into what's real. And I was having setbacks, and I was getting punched in the face, and I was losing money, and I was feeling guilt and shame for it. But the other thing that was happening, because I didn't quit, is I was learning. I was learning how to run an adequate weekly meeting. Mm-hmm. I was learning how to adequately run a project. And I was learning how to actually lead and build a team. So I was getting better, even though it was all under the surface. Does that
it just
kind of make
catches
sense?
my attention that you're using the word adequately. So can you that seems like an intentional word choice. What do you mean? Why adequately?
I was learning a skill. I had no skill at it, and then I could have an adequate skill that I could then build on.
Okay. So you weren't a master, but that's okay.
Yeah. I was marketable.
Yeah.
And so system, in my notes here, I got systems, processes, accounting. We're still getting better at it.
Sure.
This is 5 years later.
Sure.
And then I picked up this book because I had heard Tim Ferriss talk about it, but he'd always talked about Black Swan, anti-fragile. And I picked up this anti-fragile book, and it just blew my mind. And it helped me understand what was actually happening, and it kind of gave me what I wanted it gave me what I actually wanted in life.
Wow.
So, and this is an investing book. It's crazy. So Nassim Taleb, the writer of this book, he used to be a trader. I would say now he's a philosopher, but he bet correctly on the crash of '08 and made generational wealth and inside like a year-long period after he'd been trading for 20 years and still doing well. But he predicted the crash well, and he made what he calls FU money. So he would never have to work again, and he could, for the benefit of society, now he writes books. And he does like advanced math and all whatever he's doing now, I don't understand. I'm not intelligent enough to understand. But the books he wrote, I was just intelligent enough to read and understand. So here is the concept of anti-fragile. And so you have fragile, like you have, we're in Jake's bus recording this podcast. Outside in my dining room, my wife has a couple vases.
Yeah.
Right?
The vase.
And now my children doing what children do. And now they know not to throw baseballs in the house, but tennis balls, racquetballs, things like that. If a racquetball hits that vase, even though it's not a baseball, it's going to crack, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to break. Mm-hmm. Very fragile.
Right.
And so you got fragile, then there's actually robust or tough. And tough is like our house is 100 years old and the staircase is 100 years old. And it's had 100 years of kids running up and down it and just beating it up. So you see nicks and knacks in the wood. Sure. So that the staircase is robust. It's tough. It's not just going to crumple. And, that staircase has survived 100 years.
Right.
But you see the scars, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The nicks and the knacks. Now, that was cool, and I consider myself, after leaving the military, I consider myself pretty tough. I could take a beating and get back up, right? But anti-fragile set this new bar for me, this new ideal that you just don't want to be tough. You want to be anti-fragile. So anti-fragile means you get better with disorder. Like avoiding a mistake instead of learning from a mistake, I'd rather make the mistake and learn from it instead of avoiding it. Mm-hmm. And now, I know I'm podcasting and I know this is my complete aspirational message. This is still a habit I have to break daily. It's still a tendency I would say I have to break daily.
Yeah.
So that's how it kind of appealed to me personally. But now let's talk what everybody's on the Done For You Real Estate podcast. Let's talk dollars and cents. What does that actually mean investing wise?
Okay.
And so to do that, I'm going to tell another story to the book. But the whole point of the book is how do we make decisions without perfect knowledge? And so, chew on that for a second. Like we're all having to make 1,000 decisions in investing. We're all going to have to make decisions without perfect knowledge.
Yeah.
And so what philosophy, what mindset do you need to go into with investing? And then I'm going to tell a story and get to that point. But this is from a story from the book. It's about a guy named Thales from Miletus. And then we're talking like 500 BC. So Thales was an ancient Greek dude, and he lived on the island of Miletus, and he was a philosopher. And instead of being like a woke philosopher who looked down on people who produced and were competent and created income, he was like, man, that seems interesting. I'm going to try it. And after I try it, if I don't like it, then I can knock it. But because, there's always that tension between people in the ivory tower and then people out on the street, the business people.
Yeah,
so
disdaining it.
Yeah, respect Thales because he was like, okay, well, I'm not going to knock it till I try it. So he had a business idea. They did a bunch of olive oil on the island of Miletus. And so he didn't have any land. He didn't have any oil presses. But what he did have was a little bit of cash.
Okay.
And so what he did is he went to all the people who owned oil, olive oil presses. And he put a call option on it. And he said, hey, and usually it was a farmer. Hey, Mr. Farmer, I'm going to give you, maybe they used dinar back then. I'm going to give you 3 dinar for this calendar year, that if any point I come to you in this calendar year, I get exclusive access to your oil press for 30 days. He wrote it up something like that. He's going to pay you for the right, not necessarily the obligation to use that oil press.
Right.
And so just so happened in 500 BC or whenever it was that the island of Miletus had a ridiculous olive oil harvest, right?
Yep.
So what did he do? He bought out he put options on most of the olive oil presses, and then he called in his option after the harvest. So he pretty much had a monopoly on all the olive oil presses, right? And so in one harvest,
I kind of like this business thing.
In one harvest, he made generational wealth. So now he was a philosopher and he was rich, kind of like Nassim Taleb. And so the point of the story is that Thales had a known downside. He was willing to lose his call options, and he invested for an unlimited upside.
Right.
So there was no cap on how good the harvest could be in Miletus, and there was no cap on how much olive oil he could produce. So Taleb in the book is like, hey, you want to invest in a way where you have a known downside and unlimited upside. The problem with traditional financial planning is you pretty much have a live in it upside. Is you're hoping for a 10% year-on-year return. What's the problem, though? Is there a known downside with traditional financial planning? I'm talking just investing in the stock market.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can't, in most qualified plans, you can't put a bunch of put options. Mm-hmm. So put options are essentially insurance for your losses. Right. So most of these qualified plans in the stock market have no put options, and they can go down. We've seen it happen in 2025. We've seen how far
you can evaporate.
It can evaporate quickly. So there's no known downside. So me personally, the reason I do not invest in index funds, the reason I don't invest in qualified plans is because I have no known downside. But why I do buy a bunch of real estate is because I know I have a known downside. Do you have any idea when you buy a piece of single family real estate, what is the known downside?
I would assume it's your down payment and
it's really
whatever you put into it.
Yeah,
that's kind of your stopgap right there.
Yeah, it's your down payment and your rehab costs, which most of your rehab costs you refinance out. When you buy a piece of single family real estate, who actually carries the risk?
The bank with the mortgage?
Yes. So in Anti-Fragile, or it's either Anti-Fragile or Black Swan, I should get the exact quote. But Taleb says the reason real estate has created multi-generational wealth and the greatest wealth producer in this country is because of optionality. The owner of the real estate has the option to just leave the house and lose their down payment and let the bank handle the problem. He also says that banks over time are at a net loss because, this is what happens. This is why you need governments backing banks. Mm-hmm. So what happened in 2008? Yeah. A bunch of people walked away from houses. Banks foreclosed on them. Banks then generally auctioned those houses at a discount and had to write it off on their balance sheet, right? Mm-hmm. And then who backed the banks for their losses?
The government.
The government.
Yeah.
Right?
So when you say optionality, like the banks don't have the ability to walk away.
No, they're committed. They have zero optionality.
But the real estate investors do.
Yes. Yeah. Now, I know to say get foreclosed on, or bankruptcy, nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
But
it might kill your credit, but you have the ability to, that's it.
You still have your
whatever
brain,
that is.
You still have your lessons learned. And I know people talk I'm not going to talk about the right or wrong of declaring bankruptcy.
Okay.
I'm just going to, it's a point of optionality that you can walk away.
Right.
And I know President Trump, on projects, he's never personally declared bankruptcy. On different projects, he has declared bankruptcy. And, the founders of this country created bankruptcy laws so we could have optionalities and it would not discourage investment.
Right.
I'm not making a moral claim on any of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to say it was right or wrong. I don't know enough about the case.
Sure.
But I do know a lot of people have a beef with him personally on that and don't believe he's a good businessman because he, on a project, has declared bankruptcy.
Right, right.
But my point is if you get foreclosed on a house, which is the worst case scenario, and if you're a high income earner and you have liquidity, the chances of that are close to zero. But who is the big loser in a foreclosure?
It's the bank.
It's the bank. It is not the investor.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm reading this book and like I'm in real estate. I was like, this is making a lot of sense. So I'm only going to invest with known downside and unlimited upside. So with a single family real estate, we know what the known downside is your down payment. Right. But what's the unlimited upside?
The house can appreciate.
You have no idea how much a house will appreciate. We have 70 years of data that say it's going to be 5% a year.
Right.
Or it's going to double in price every 20 years. That sounds like an unlimited return to me, right?
Yeah. You can't. It's not finite. It's definitely not finite.
Yeah. I mean, you have no idea how much that, we have 70 years of data say it'll double its value in 20 years. So 5%. So that's an unlimited upside. No doubt. Right. Check.
Yep.
All right, what's the next unlimited upside? Tax benefits. Do I know how much money? It depends on how much money I make as to how much money a house will save me in taxes.
Sure.
Unlimited return, though.
Right.
Not capped by anything.
Right.
And what about the ability to use other people's money? Now, that is a known gain, is the tenant will pay off your mortgage. It is capped on how much you borrow. Mm-hmm. And then cash flow, unknown how much you'll actually collect. Because over time, you have no idea. You can project. But there's 4 ways in real estate where you win with an unlimited upside with a known downside. And so to me, once I work in concepts and I work in principles, I was like, all right, this checks. I'm going to keep buying. Now, do I really care the exact to the penny how much my upside is? Not really. I just know on the investing curve, I have my brain operates in like almost shapes. I see the chart. And we can probably put in the show notes a chart of what a known downside. It looks like a call option chart. So if you guys want to Google call option chart, you're going to see the return starts below the profit line and then hockey sticks to a known line. So do I look week by week where I'm at on that chart? No.
Yeah,
I generally look at it once a year.
Well, how much is it going to cost to replace this toilet?
Don't care.
What about like a water heater?
Don't care.
What about
my tenants are paying for that?
It's all wrapped into kind of a finite CapEx.
My tenants are going to pay for that. That's not my investment. And so the other thing Taleb calls in the book is called barbell investing. And so it's like a barbell with a 10-pound on one side and then like 4 or 5 plates on the other side. And what barbell investing
sounds difficult.
Yeah, you're not going to lift it. But what barbell investing means is you either win or you win big. So you cap your downside. And so when your downside's capped, it's really not that hard to show a positive return.
Right.
And so there's your anchor on one side. But then with unlimited upside, that's where you have the 3 or 4 plates where you win big. And so the way I personally invest and the people in Done For You Real Estate, I try to influence them to invest is set yourself up for known downsides and unlimited upsides. And like me personally, let me phrase this the right way. If I don't have a known downside, I'm out. Do not care what the potential returns are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Open yourself up to a lot of liability right there for.
Well, that's why I spend a ton of money on lawyers and I spend a ton of money on insurance because it manages my downside.
Right. Right.
It mitigates my downside. Like that's why I have work comp insurance for the guys doing our rehabs. Like, having guys do work on a house and not having work comp insurance, I do not have a known downside. Could completely take me out. That's why I have car insurance. That's why I have homeowners insurance. That's why I insure every property. And so when people look at like insurance, this is a whole new topic, but insurance diversifies risk amongst other investors. But when people are like, oh, insurance is a cost, I'm like, that's insane. Insurance is an investment to cap your downside.
To make it go from an unknown downside to
a very known downside. What's your downside? Your deductible.
Right.
Accredited investors, if you're looking for quality real estate to put in your portfolio that is pushing 30 to 40% in annual returns, well, I'm glad you're watching this ad because I bring my investors about 400 of those deals every year, and all the due diligence is already completed. We also have all the lending lined up, and we have the construction and property management already set and ready to go. And it's all in-house, all done start to finish by my team. All you got to do is review the deal, write the check, show up at closing, and you're done. And the best part is there's no equity splits. You own the asset 100%. My team gets paid to do the things you were already going to pay for anyway, like having someone find the deal, fix up the deal, and manage the house for the long term or offload the deal for a flip. So if you want to invest in real estate and you want to build a portfolio on autopilot, or maybe just flip a few houses with a vertically integrated team doing all the work for you, A to Z, click the link. There's more information on how this works on the next page and the option to book a call with us to discuss working together. Insurance is an investment to cap your downside.
To make it go from an unknown downside to
a very known downside. What's your downside? Your deductible.
Right.
And so that, this book shifted my brain on a ton of concepts, particularly insurance and how I invest.
Yep.
And so back to another problem I have with traditional financial planning is you have that unknown downside, and then you're only doing it for a 10% return, because even the greatest stock market guy ever has only done it for a 10%, 10% return if he's in an index fund and most qualified plans.
Dang. You're making me think that when we talk about investing in the stock market, it's not truly investing.
It's speculating.
Yeah.
You're buying for resale rather than use.
Right.
You're buying low, hoping to sell high. So the whole problem is investing is departing with capital for an extended period of time for use and getting your return in the form of dividends or rents.
Could you say you do have a known downside, though, in the sense of, like, if, let's say you invest, 10 grand in Apple stock, when that disappears, they go bankrupt, you just lose your 10 grand.
Yeah.
Right?
If you say to yourself, hey, I'm letting go of this 10 grand and I'm expecting to lose it.
Right.
And I'm fine with it.
It's like going to the casino.
I'm fine with losing it. Yeah. But now if you're putting your whole life savings into an index fund or a 401k or something like that, you really don't have a known downside, because you could lose. I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's possible. So we're talking more at a conceptual thing.
Sure.
It's possible, just not likely.
Right.
And I don't think it's likely at all. And I think qualified plans are great ideas, and I think they get people to the finish line. It just takes 3 times longer than real estate, and you need 3 times more money. Still great, though. Kind of.
Asterisks?
Yeah. Just not as good as this.
Yeah. Nice.
So, that's what I got on anti-fragility. Kind of definitely helped me get over my poopy pants when I was failing in the beginning. But, what I hope listeners would get from listening to this podcast, that like, hey, if you have a setback, how can you use it to make yourself better? It's life. Like, no matter what, you can learn a lesson and get better. And just learning the lesson and getting better technically makes you anti-fragile.
Plus, I was thinking about, like, because you started with that concept, and like hearing this from my point of view as a small business owner, et cetera, wanting to like overcome challenges that I faced, and definitely getting worked up over some of them. Like, how do I develop that mindset? So,
dude, I got so deep in this book, I almost stopped becoming a sports fan.
Wow. Because
technically, the shelf life on an athlete, especially football, is so short that there's not really the opportunity to become anti-fragile. It was starting to bore me. Now, the Chiefs got hot the last few years, and I kind of got over that. But that's what I was also I was getting bored with sports because of it.
Interesting. So then, really the call to action, like for me and for other people, is I like that thing about stop attributing success to yourself to a point, and then failure to yourself to a point, and just really start making decisions with good information, whether it's for the business or you're investing in real estate.
And don't gamble. Know your known downside and what you're willing to lose on something.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to take that loss, go ahead. Carry on, but then don't cry in your Cheerios if the worst happens and you lose it.
Right.
But then money you're not willing to lose, keep it away.
Right.
And don't get tempted into, it's this return. The problem with what you see on the media is they talk about what the returns were. That's all they talk about. They don't talk about what risk was your initial capital subjected to. That's the main thing. The reason people become wealthy is because they don't lose money. Warren Buffett's number 1 rule of investing: don't lose money. Do you know what his second rule is?
Probably also
don't forget rule number 1. And so if you're going up and down and up and down, it's really hard to create a long-term aggregate return. But now if you cap your downside and just keep putting along. It's very hard not to get wealthy in this country.
Nice. So the thing that you talked about, like what those charts look like, are those in the course online?
Yeah, it's also in the online course that we have. It's also, we could take a quick snapshot of it and put it in the show notes.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So look for it in the show notes.
So if you're interested in becoming a little more anti-fragile in an investment class, single-family real estate that is very anti-fragile, why don't you go to our website? What's the website? What's the landing page?
www.jimmyvreeland.com/get started in real estate. Link will be in the show notes.
And schedule a call with one of our team members, and we will get you on the path to anti-fragility.